Oh, cool. Welcome to our consult call for February. We are going to be talking about how youth partners work with family partners and covering all the stuff we didn't get to talk about last month because everyone had so much to say, which was awesome. So here is a little bit of an overview of the Mental Health Technology Transfer Center Network. We are presenting this in partnership with them, and that little brown region in the upper left-hand corner, which is Alaska, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. That is the Northwest MHTTC out of University of Washington, and that is what we are a part of. So we're serving that area, but we always welcome anyone from the rest of the country who wants to join our consult calls. A little bit about the MHTTC. It's all about technology transfer. So they disseminate and implement evidence-based practices for mental disorders in our field. And the target workforce includes behavioral health and primary care providers, school and social service staff, and others whose work has the potential to improve behavioral health outcomes for individuals with or at risk of developing serious mental illnesses. And like I said, our Northwest MHTTC serves Alaska, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. So their role, our role in the Northwest MHTTC is to provide training and TA in evidence-based practices to behavioral health and primary care providers. Here's a little bit more about the goals. I won't go too in depth into them, but if you want more info about the MHTTC and specifically about the Northwest MHTTC and some of the trainings or webinars that are upcoming, including, this one and others from the region or even the rest of the country, you can go to mhttcnetwork.org, and /Northwest would be specifically for the Northwest region. So just a little disclaimer up front, we strive to use affirming, respectful, and recovery-oriented language in this webinar and all activities. So trying to be strengths-based, inclusive, and accepting of diverse cultures, genders, perspectives, and experience, person-first, healing-centered, trauma-responsive, non-judgmental, avoiding assumptions. So if you notice us using anything that you think is inconsistent with that, please try and call us in, using the chat or however you feel comfortable. And we just want all of our participants to strive to keep these things in mind as we are going through this consult call. So some quick introductions to us as your trainers. That's me on the right with my dog Twinkie and my cat Clarence. For those of you who've been on this call, sometimes our pets make an appearance because we've been working from home for almost a year now. So, they can barge in and interrupt us. So we like to include them and call them out ahead of time. So you're not like, who the heck are those furry freaks? So I am a researcher and trainer at Portland State University of the Pathways Research and Training Center. Prior to that, I was a youth peer support specialist working with transition age youth in the Portland area. And also I supervised other youth peer support specialists. And I also bring my own lived experience in the youth mental health system to my work. And I'll let Caitlin introduce herself and her pets.
Great, thanks, Maria. Hi, everybody. My name is Caitlin Baird. I use she, her pronouns. I am also a researcher and trainer at the Pathways Research and Training Institute with Maria. We work on a number of projects that focus on youth and young adult driven practice in mental health and other systems, as well as how do we best support youth peer support specialists and really create some sort of fidelity for that role. I also, before working at Pathways, was a wraparound trainer and a youth peer support specialist for the same agency that Maria worked for. And I also supervised youth peer support specialists who were supporting young people in wraparound and who were working in the community and who were also working in crisis settings. As Maria mentioned, as a youth peer support specialist, we come to this work bringing our own lived experience. So it's a real privilege being able to use some of my lived experience as a youth and young adult in order to better inform systems practice. So we're super excited to be here and have these discussions with you all today. And I really, just before we hop in, want to acknowledge that we have varying levels of expertise. And so we really want to hear from folks on the call, particularly those who do family partner work, so that we can have just a myriad of different perspectives on how youth partners and family partners can best collaborate together. So I look forward to hearing from everybody on that.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Yeah, we're going to launch our first poll. So we just want to know what your role is. We'll give you guys about 2 minutes to complete this. If your role is not on our list, please go ahead and drop it in the chat. Okay, I think that we've heard from just about everybody. It looks like we have a few youth peer support specialists, a handful of family peer support specialists. And then as I was looking at you all enter in the chat, I was like, oh yeah, Caitlin, hello, care coordinator should have definitely been on our list before like administrator or something, obviously. So I'm glad to see that we have so many care coordinators here. It really looks like a lot of people here with a background in wraparound, which is great because that's really a focus of what we're talking about today. So super excited to see everybody here. So our learning objectives for today, we're going to talk about and just do a pretty quick review of the key facets of how youth and family partners collaborate. We'll talk about some common challenges. These are going to come up in the form of scenarios, which is mostly what we're going to be discussing today, and how we can use some of the key facets to collaboration to address some of these challenges. And to know how to better clarify roles with any youth, parents, or colleagues. And again, this will sort of come up as we're talking about what is occurring in these different scenarios. So you'll see at the very top of the chat is a link to our peer practice brief. This is going to talk about some of the keys to successful collaboration, which are also going to be on our next slide. I'm going to go ahead and put everybody in breakout rooms. You'll have about 5 minutes. And I'm just asking that folks kind of take a quick look at the keys to successful collaboration in the brief and talk about maybe a time that you've used them, how this comes up in your work, really just sort of a reflection on these keys to successful collaboration. Does that sound okay to everybody? Okay, cool. You should get an invitation shortly for your breakout rooms.
Can you send mine again, please?
Yes. Okay, just resent it, Carol. Let me know if you see it. Okay, I'm gonna set a timer for them.
Sounds good.
I spot a Twinkie. I can't see her, but what's on that pillow, Maria?
It's like not even worth explaining. It's from this 80s movie called Heavenly Kid.
Okay. Fair enough.
It's a fun movie though, I recommend it.
Okay, I think that we have everyone back. I hope everyone had some good discussion. So before we hop into our scenarios, we're just going to do a quick review of our keys to successful collaboration, which you all just had some discussion about. So please feel free to hop in. But Maria, do you want to open it up for us?
Absolutely. So you probably are a little more familiar with these by now, but these are the keys to successful collaboration we identified for making the family partner role and the youth partner role work a little bit better together when there might naturally exist a little bit of friction between those roles. So some of the big ones are clarifying the role from the start, making sure the youth, the family, and all the rest of the team really understand exactly what the youth partner and the family partner do and do not do. So advocating for the role or advocating for the wants and the needs of the young person, even when that might conflict with what the family wants or what the team wants, and what the youth partner and the family partner are going to share with the team and what they're not going to share with the team. So similarly, that has to do with understanding when to keep things confidential. We want to promote sharing things between the youth partner and the family partner because that kind of communication between the youth partner and the family partner, and the care coordinator and the rest of the team can really help the meetings go more smoothly. But similarly, it's really important for things that shouldn't be shared to not be shared between them. So when you are sharing things as a youth partner with a family partner or vice versa, you really want to make sure you're explaining to your youth or family client exactly what you're going to share, getting their permission and their feedback, and really clarifying like why exactly you want to share those things. You wanting to promote a successful meeting, and that kind of thing. So another thing that kind of goes along with that is our next key, which is promoting proactive and positive communication. So how can you kind of support your young person to maybe build those self-determination skills where they're communicating those things with their parent beforehand on their own, so maybe, you're not telling the youth, well, don't do this, your parent's not going to like it, but, you're helping them think through some of the consequences of, well, if you do this, what's going to happen? Or, if they do decide they want to talk to their parent, how are you helping them think through, like maybe how they're going to speak to their parent about this, that kind of thing. So this could involve, maybe even bringing together the youth, the parent, the family partner, and the youth partner all together in one room to talk about something before a meeting, outside of the context of a meeting, just all about helping the family and the youth develop more of those positive communication strategies that are going to help things go smoother in the meeting, outside of the meeting, and between those relationships. Providing perspective, of course, is a big one because both of the family partner and the youth partner are the peers on the team. They're there for their lived experience. So something that either of them can do is kind of help the team understand, maybe the reasons behind and either the behavior of the youth partner or the youth or the family, maybe provide some context, say, well, maybe when I was a young person, I know that like when I was in residential, I felt A, B, or C, something like that to help the rest of the team really understand where the youth or family is coming from, maybe in a way that the youth or family can't articulate, but as a professional on the team, the youth partner or the family partner can kind of use their lived experience to communicate that. And then the last one we put down was sharing resources, which is just, the youth or partner or the family partner might have some knowledge of community resources that the youth and the family could do together, just ways that they can really be communicating and collaborating together to support the youth and the family.
Okay, so we're going to move into our scenarios now. This is scenario number 1. We're going to go ahead and read the scenarios out loud together, and then we'll put you into your breakout rooms again so that you can answer some of the questions at the end of the scenario, which includes what were some successful strategies used by the youth and the family partner, what could have they done better and or differently, and what challenges that did they face. And then when everybody comes back together, we're going to ask that each group choose just a question to answer or something to reflect on that was discussed in your breakout rooms. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, cool. Well, scenario number 1. So Carrie, who is 17 years old, and her mother, Jane, have been participating in the wraparound process for 4 months. Carrie recently was assigned a youth partner, and Jane had a family partner since the start of the wraparound process. When Carrie first met with her youth partner, she expressed that she wants to move out of her mom's house because all they do is fight, and she does better in school and with her mental health when she is not living at home. She suggested moving in with her aunt, Beth. The youth partner asked Carrie if she had spoken with her family about this, and Carrie shared that while she had already sought Beth's approval, she had not shared the idea with her mom for fear of retaliation. In the past, when Carrie brought up such strategies to her mom, Jane cut off her access to her phone and internet, which Carrie says that she needs to complete schoolwork. Carrie's youth partner asked if Carrie would like to talk about her hopes to move out of her mom's house at her upcoming wraparound meeting, and Carrie responded yes. Carrie's youth partner supported Carrie in planning to share her agenda item with her team facilitator and helped her anticipate what her mom and other team members might say. On the day of the meeting, Carrie and her youth partner arrive early, shortly before Jane and her family partner do. As they sit in the meeting room together, waiting for the rest of the team to arrive, Jane asks Carrie why she didn't come home last night. Carrie states that she was at Beth's house doing homework and fell asleep. The rest of the team arrives and the meeting begins. The first life domain of the team focuses on, at the request of Carrie and Jane, is living, and it is clear that Carrie and Jane are in disagreement. Carrie wants to move in with her Aunt Beth, and Jane wants Carrie to stay at home. Both contend that the other strategy is non-negotiable. The meeting ends with no resolution. So, you guys are going to go into your breakout rooms, talk about what are some successful strategies that may have happened. What are things that could have gone better or differently? So think about our key facets to successful collaboration. Maybe what are some things that the youth partner could have done to better support Carrie? And what are some of the challenges that they faced? So you guys will have I'm going to say 6 minutes to discuss. So everybody will be called back in at 10:42. And yeah, I am excited to hear what everybody has to say.
Caitlin, is there a way we can bring this over into our group? Can you put the link into the chat? The scenario so we can have the questions?
Yeah, so the document that you just reviewed in the previous breakout room, this is actually a part of the same document. So it's at the very end. Yeah.
I see it. Thank you so much.
Good. Thank you for asking, because that's an important thing to clarify.
Thank you.
All right, looks like we have everyone back. Did you all feel like maybe if you could just drop in the chat, was that enough time, or do you guys need more time to discuss in your breakout rooms?
I think it was enough.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it was enough. I think if we did, we still would. It was pretty quick, the little scenario. I'd like to have something where we could sort of scan back over it, as we were discussing things. But that's fine too, the way you did it.
Okay, well, I'm glad it seemed to work for folks. So does anybody want to share, what group would like to share just some reflections or things that came out of your discussion?
I guess I'll go. One of the things that we discussed in our group was that we felt like some of the strategies were good, but maybe especially with Carrie not going home the night before, that was a challenge. And if there was, I want to say an agenda, but if there was an agenda about the meeting that went out earlier, so that way maybe mom might have been more prepared that that's what they were going to discuss. It could have possibly gone better, or they could have met a consensus.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely having some of like that preparing for the meeting aspect, also making sure that there's some effective communication that's happening between mom and Carrie, which it seems like there really isn't right now. So how can the youth and family partner support that? Yeah, great response, Cassie. What else did people talk about in their groups?
No, one of the things.
Go ahead.
So one of the things, I don't know what room I was in, but one of the things that we did mention is that possibly, yes, having a staffing before that meeting, so that way the topics, everybody knows what the topics would be about.
Mm-hmm.
And also maybe in at that meeting or future meetings to introduce or bring the aunt to be part of the meeting, so that way she's no longer a threat or someone, she's coming in to take away the child, but she can contribute to maybe having lunch together, or three of them, or for the youth to spend an overnight with the aunt, and eventually, just getting to know each other, because it sounds nice for her to want her to go live somewhere else, but just getting to know each other anyways, and eventually she's going to leave the home because she's 18, almost 18. So just getting used to it, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. So, and that really highlights sort of that natural support principle and wraparound too. So seeing how can the aunt be involved to support both Carrie and Jane, right? Because maybe there's another alternative that'll work best for both of them.
So my thought is something that could have been done differently is the youth and family partner talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And saying, this kid is saying that they're not feeling comfortable in the house, and, this is going to be brought up. And the family partner going to the mom and saying, so the kid is having some issues. What do you think about this? Is there anybody that the youth can stay with, that she would be comfortable with to, and make it seem like it's more her idea than all of a sudden a slam, this is how it is. And then everybody's on their tippy toes and it goes downhill from there.
Absolutely. I love that you say that, because that's really about that providing perspective piece. So I know that as a youth partner, I would often work with family partners, and we would sort of come together, and without sharing or disclosing too much of what the parent or the young person had told us, just sort of providing our own perspective on where they're coming from, and then coming up with some strategies on how we could help them collaborate or communicate with one another. Yeah, I think that that's always super helpful and important. Any last thoughts before we move on to our next scenario? All
I have
right.
one
Well,
quick
great.
thought.
Oh yeah, please.
Okay, just wanted to point out that when looking at this scenario and who all was involved, that a lot of what I think about is how the situation could be presented to the mom. If you present the situation to the mom that now we want to talk about your daughter staying somewhere else, would be more resistant than if, hey, we'd like to talk about getting you some relief. We'd like to talk about getting you some respite. You know, this is, and you know, what's in it for mom, and present it to mom as if, you know, what's in it for her is to, you know, not only give her a break once in a while and give her some help and support, but to also, you know, do something that would benefit the child. So I just kind of wanted to point out that, you know, it's really a lot of it, it's all in the presentation. And I always try to keep that in mind.
Absolutely. And I love that you bring that up because I think a common challenge that we see sometimes on wraparound teams or other sorts of more formal treatment planning teams is there can kind of become this us versus them vibe, right? Like some folks might be siding with the young person or some folks might be siding with the parent. And I think a lot of that comes off in how we're communicating strategies and ideas. Because ultimately, what we're there to do is really accomplish our team mission and work towards the family vision, right? Which is something where the young person and parent have come together to really think about what does healing look like for them. And so when we're presenting strategies and ideas, we want to make sure that it doesn't feel like we are ostracizing or singling anybody out. So yeah, that's a great point. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next scenario. Maria, you want to kick this one off for us?
Yes, absolutely. So this scenario deals with Lola, they, them, and Michael, their father, he, him. So Lola is 14 and has been living in a foster home for almost 1 year. They were voluntarily placed into foster care by their father, Michael, who felt ill-equipped to support their mental wellness. Lola and Michael were recently accepted into the wraparound process and both feel discouraged about working together. Lola and Michael were both assigned wraparound peer partners at the beginning of the process. The youth partner and family partner initially met Lola and Michael separately since they were living in separate homes. When the youth partner met with Lola, Lola expressed that they were angry about being voluntarily placed into care by their father, that they felt unloved and unwelcome in their family, and that their father would not accept their non-binary identity. Michael met with his family partner and shared that when Lola was living in the home, things felt chaotic and he was worried about their safety, as well as that of their older brother, Anthony. During this first meeting, the youth partner and family partner explained the wraparound process to their peer clients and each asked how the other felt about it. Lola told their peer partner that they would not be in the same room with their father, and Michael said that Lola absolutely would not cooperate. Both peer partners asked if they could share their clients' concerns with the team, and they agreed to do so. The family partner and youth partner connected and shared only relevant information with each other about how Lola and Michael were feeling. Together, they agreed that they would offer some strategies to the youth, family, and team facilitator to ensure that the youth and parents' perspectives were understood. They took this plan back to Lola and Michael and asked that they come up with strategies on how to make the team meetings together go smoothly. So the first strategy that was arrived at and agreed upon was having separate meetings, one for Lola and one for Michael, where the same needs were discussed. This was troubling for many team members. I don't have time for that. That's not real wraparound. But the family and youth partners assured the team members that this was the best way for the team to show that they are honoring youth and family voice, and that as we move through the engagement phase, things would change. With consistent one-on-one meetings with Lola and Michael and with each other, the youth and family partner were able to support Lola and their father coming together to create plans and strategies that they together could bring to the team meetings. Their time in wraparound was met with many bumps in the road, but resulted in Lola moving back into Michael's home. So, looks like we only have 7 minutes left of the console call. So do we want to just discuss this as a group or you're on mute? Yeah, okay, cool. So looking at this scenario, does anyone see any successful strategies used by either the youth or the family partner in supporting Lola and Michael?
They really took to heart their voices. I thought that was really important. That very, very important in system of care.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is our first wraparound principle, family youth voice. So I think that's a big one, right? They listened to Lola and Michael and, you know, stood up for them when some of the team members pushed back, right? You know, saying we're gonna have 2 meetings, like, right? I don't have time for this, but yeah, I think that's a great point. Anything else people noticed that was successful about the way they were supporting Lola and Michael?
It sounds to me like with the collaboration and persistence, you know, that even though there were multiple meetings, it sounds like in between the meetings, there was a lot of work that was done with other people on the team, and that was brought back collaboratively with other people, and then shared that way. And nobody gave up. They were persistent in regards to what the family and the youth needed.
Yeah, I love how everyone's calling out our rap principles right now. That rules. Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, that persistence is key here. And I also love how you called out like the work between the meetings that's happening. I think that's a huge deal to, you know, make sure that these meetings are going to be successful, even if we're having, you know, double the amount of meetings that needs to happen to make this process successful. Anything else that people are noticing that was done well, or that could have been done better or differently?
I just want to hop in and call out. I think it's important to acknowledge and very cool that the family partner and the youth partner only share relevant information that's been approved by Lola and Michael. I think sometimes, and not with any ill intent, there's an expectation that peer partners are there to sort of like divulge what the young person or the family member is talking about or thinking and saying. And we really don't want to breach that confidentiality and that trust, right? We want to make sure that anything that we're sharing is something that's approved by the young person or the family. Obviously, unless it's an immediate safety or a mandatory reporting issue, that's totally different, you know, but yeah, making sure that we're not there to just sort of report back to the team or anything like that. So I think that was a cool strategy that they used.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because, you know, I think the young person or the family is going to find out pretty quick that you're sharing everything back with the team that they don't necessarily approve of. You know, that's not, you're not going to be able to hide that when it's coming up in team meetings, and pretty soon that source of information is going to dry up when they realize it's all, you know, going back to the team and their parents and everyone, and that relationship is going to be damaged and pretty much defeat the whole point of, you know, having a youth partner that's building that relationship and trust with the young person or the family. You know, I think it goes both ways, just speaking from my own experience working with young people who are pretty guarded about their personal information.
Well, we only have a couple of minutes left, so I think that we're going to go through our wrap up. But before we do, does anybody have any last comments or questions? All right, great, everybody. So just a little bit more about the Northwest MHTTC. There are tons of live trainings, archived webinars. You can find these consult calls and other things like that, and other things on our website and in our newsletters. So we highly encourage you to access those. There will also be an evaluation survey that is sent to you after today's training. It's not in the chat box, unfortunately, but I do promise it will be in an email. An evaluation really helps us in terms of just being able to improve these consult calls, make them more interactive or more accessible. We also really encourage you to reach out with any ideas or topics that you would like to cover, because then we can make the calls more individualized to all of you. Notice how I dropped a wrap principle in there. Please fill out the evaluation when you have the opportunity, and we hope to see you during our next consult call next month.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great Thursday.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.